If you break that bond, you are breaking the long-term future of the club. You're breaking the culture, the history. You're also fundamentally breaking what made English football such a great cultural thing.
Over the summer, I read the 3 Beartown books from Swedish novelist Fredrik Backman, Björnstad in Swedish, but they're all translated in English and very well known actually now. And in there he describes how in this small ice hockey town in the forest of northern Sweden, the year starts in September. Many residents, including the owner of the local bar, actually turn their calendars on the wall so that a new one goes up with September every year, not January. Why? Because in September, the hockey season starts. And it's a bit similar with me and the last weekend in July. We start classes here at the college I teach at in late August. So that month is just around the corner and it has the ring of get your classes ready and prepare for all the rah-rah-rah events at the start of the new semester. But the last weekend in July is also when the Austrian Cup starts. And the streams normally work pretty well. And so in our house on that weekend, the panoramas of meadows with cows grazing behind goals is on and vegetable fields behind team benches on the screen. And there's always a game where some dude, and it's always some dude, in a thick local Austrian accent sits close enough to the camera's mic to embarrass himself with his comments. And there's always an almost upset. This time it actually almost hit Sturm Graz, a third league team from the beautiful Danube town of Krems, forced Sturm into overtime there. So that is around the time of the year when, for me, the year starts again. Late July, early August. The German second and third leagues started this past weekend. The Swedish leagues played through parts of the Euro, grateful for that, and the European Cup qualifiers are on. Oh, by the way, especially the qualifying rounds for the Europa League and the Conference League. As long as you have a chance still, and if you have legal or semi-legal streams that work, do take a look. I mean, these games allow us to travel to parts of Europe we'd otherwise never know or hear about. And they remind me each year how much of my view of the world and how much of my geography knowledge actually is derived from soccer. 2 weeks from now, in the next episode, we'll actually dive into that world where Ilves Tampere in Finland and Vikingur Reykjavik of Iceland and the NK Maribor of Slovenia try to reach European group phases and go up against the big ones. It's a very nice world. We'll talk to someone who knows it very well. I will say I did watch some semi-pro lower league soccer here in the Midwest over summer break, and that's its own rhythm, and I quite like that too. Greetings to Fort Wayne, Indiana, especially. Thanks for saying hi there back in early July. All right, season 3 is here of The Assistant Professor of Football, and if you are tuning back in, I'm flattered. I'm grateful you're joining again. Don't hesitate to drop a message or a voicemail. The links to both are in the show notes right at the top. My podcast host now has this easy messaging function, so try that out. A few of you did already. It seems to be very smooth. It's called fan mail, which is ridiculous, but yeah, try it out and share your impressions of the early season. That's what I would be curious about. What are your favorite aspects of the new football season starting? Do you have high hopes for your club this year, or do you dread what's ahead for your club, or both? Let me know. And if you're new and this is your very first episode, your first time with the Assistant Professor of Football, let me know as well, and let me know how you found this niche project. And both of you, old-time listeners, new-time listeners, I really appreciate if you spread the word. There are easy ways to do that, to share, to follow. Normally that influences algorithms the most. And I always like hearing from you as well. So get in touch. And I'm glad the new season is on. And it's on with a thorny subject. If you follow a club that plays in the English Premier League, you may have gotten wind of this. Over the summer, quite a few clubs increased their season ticket prices and phased out, or partially phased out, discounted tickets for kids and seniors, so-called concession tickets. And for once, English fans seem to get organized and cooperative in resistance. Wolverhampton, Tottenham, and West Ham in particular are the hotspots right now, but there's more. And if the fans do this right, you will witness some public action by fans at the start of the season. And good on them. Why does this matter? What vision are the clubs following? And can English fans pull off a successful protest against the robber baron capitalism of modern soccer, like German fans did in spring? Here to tell us the answers are two fans who are in the trenches of this fight at West Ham United, my English club, as many of you will know. It's Andy from Hammers United, who was with us in season 1 already, and Alex from the campaign Save Our Concessions. And Alex has produced a wonderful little clip featuring him and his son that lays out what's at stake here. So we'll listen to that a little bit before we head into our conversation. Enjoy.
You want a video? Tell me what the score's going to be. Go.
3-1.
To who?
To West Ham. To Crystal Palace.
This is Alex's young son joining the tune of the West Ham anthem, Forever Blowing Bubbles. And the video ends with the writing, "This is our future. Don't let West Ham destroy it." And that should already tell you that there's more at stake here than a couple of pounds more per ticket. Andy and Alex, welcome to the Assistant Professor of Football. Alex, I'm going to start with you, but first, again, the reminder for American listeners, especially concessions here are not the hot dogs and chocolate bars you buy at the little booth at a game. It's discounted tickets. So it's concession tickets is what we're talking about for juniors, for seniors, and for select other groups as well. Alex, before we build out the bigger picture, at Save Our Concessions at West Ham United, what do you actually want?
So at the beginning of this season, West Ham didn't announce that they had removed all new season ticket concessions. So the renewal price for if I wanted to take my son would be 190. But because West Ham, as I said, removed without announcement any new concession prices, that price for Evan, who's 8 to sit next to me, rose from 190 renewal to a new price of 790. And that was pretty much across the board as well. So no new concession prices in nearly all bands apart from 5 to 6. And 5 and 6 are right at the back of the upper tier and very limited availability. And it would mean that you would have to leave where you were sat and go and sit somewhere else, leave all your friends, etc. And that was not only for under 21s, but also over 66 or 67, whatever the age is. 66.
Right.
Yeah. And that was part of the sort of why the campaign started, really. There were other issues as well in terms of how much they had raised the season ticket prices by as well. But that's essentially, from my perspective, why the campaign started.
Now,
I was going to just add a bit to that as well, because Alex is spot on in terms of the concessions. You know, was it an accident? Was it mendacious? Was it deliberate? You know, all of those things that you ask. We at Hammers United are part of the Independent Supports Committee. We had a memorandum of understanding, effectively structured dialogue with the club. There's been virtually no consultation whatsoever. And in fact, getting the information out of West Ham has been, you know, worse than trying to find it out of a nipper's teeth at the dentist. That you just can't get them. And they also put the prices of season tickets up by a net of around 8%, citing inflation, which by the time that they did that, inflation in the UK was down to 3%. And just to add that we as season ticket holders pay in advance. You know, we pay in advance for the so-called product, and we don't know when that product's going to be delivered. So we're paying in advance, and inflation is not set to be rising anywhere near 8% in the next 12 months. So, you know, being really kind They got their numbers wrong. Last year, just for context, last season, this time last year, same sketch, zero consultation. We put a petition out, got over 5,000 signatories. Club took no notice. They changed the concessions last year. They tweaked it from over 65 overnight to over 66. So 24 hours notice, the club gave those fans that were going to be 65 years old, who were expecting to get a concession, which is 50% of the price, quite a hefty discount. And you'd argue they'd worked for that because they've been fans. 24 hours notice, it moves to over 66. But the real zinger here is that the club admitted it would actually only affect less than 100 fans. So why do you think a club takes the PR hit for 100? 100, probably 20, 30,000 pounds in revenue. They could have said to fans, we're going to change it in 12 months' time. And do you know what? Most of the fans would have shrugged their shoulders and said, fair enough, you told us. But they didn't. They changed it on 24 hours notice. That is the regime we are dealing with. Let's be under no sort of misapprehensions of what we're dealing with here. This is an engine that wants to be supremely commercial at the cost of everything, including the fans. And they kept telling us during COVID, football's nothing without fans, really.
Andy, you're with Hammers United, which is a large fan activist group at West Ham. And we've had you on around 2 years ago to talk about the history of that group, about engaging with the club, and about working for change. Alex, is this your first rodeo? Did you just get into activism when you saw my son's season ticket all of a sudden is £600 or more higher, or do you have some background as an active fan as well?
I wouldn't say I was probably that active in the past, to my shame, really. I think it really hit me like a ton of bricks, as we say over here, when I saw that as I said, it wasn't announced. I saw it on a fan forum that I couldn't renew for the price that I thought I could. And that really sort of struck a chord with me. And as I work in communications and I love West Ham, and I obviously love my son, it was a convergence, if you like, of those three things that all came together and just really lit a fire within me, because I thought this is not right, not only for myself, but for the wider supporter base of West Ham, and then even beyond that as well, because it goes out much, much wider into the Premier League as a whole organisation. And I thought, I'm going to do something and I'm going to really try it. And I started just, bringing in all my expertise. Like I said, it was a convergence of all of those things. And that's what led me to start my part of our campaign, which has now sort of funneled in to all the other sort of strands of the Save Our Concessions campaign.
Yeah. We've established that the prices for concession tickets, so youth as well as seniors, have been raised dramatically, and the price of season tickets in general have been raised well beyond inflation. And especially in the case of West Ham, I would also say well beyond what's financially necessary from the club. If you look at the overall budget, the percentage is fairly minute. However, West Ham is not the only club that is doing this to fans and that is dealing with a backlash. Could you let me know what else is going on in the Premier League, what other clubs you're in touch with, and what's the bigger picture here in English football?
It's a good point. Now, we can't be certain that Premier League clubs talk to each other, but we probably could say with some certainty that they might do. The good news for fans is that two can play that game. And this issue is across the Premier League. Most notably last season with Fulham, who introduced significant changes to one part of their ground. And it kind of flew under the radar. Wolves, Aston Villa, Forest, Man City, West Ham, Spurs, to name a few, this season have had the same strategy, I suppose, from their owners. And it was significant that Wolverhampton Wanderers decided to do something about it. And they started a petition some months ago, and it raced towards 15,000 signatories. West Ham, our fan groups, were proud to stand alongside Wolves. We stood alongside Spurs. I mean, for West Ham fans to stand alongside Spurs and vice versa is unusual.
Yes.
But we've done it. We've done it. We've stood with Liverpool. We've stood with Everton. We've stood with Manchester City. We stand with Forest. We've stood with Fulham. And what's interesting is some clubs, notably Palace, Crystal Palace and Brentford, haven't got a problem. Their fans haven't got a problem with currently their club's policies. Brighton too, actually. But yet there's been a solidarity now establishing across fan groups via what's called the fan advisory boards, which the Premier League has mandated the Premier League clubs to set up. These advisory boards are supposed to be independent of the club. Most of the fan advisory boards, as far as we can see, including West Ham, are not independent of the club. We have applied at Hammers United to be part of the fan advisory board. We shall see whether we're accepted. And if we are accepted, we'll put it to our members to see if we take our place. But in the terms of the solidarity across the Premier League clubs and Football League clubs, it's building. There will be, via the Football Supporters Association, there will be coordinated, peaceful, legal protests. And this is not going to be something that goes away after a weekend. This is not going to be something that happens and then it's talked about and gone away. This is going to be concerted because football fans, not just Premier League football fans are now finding that they are being exploited. And it's mendacious, it's cruel. When I see how I got into West Ham, I had no choice. I'm sure Alex is the same. My dad and my granddad, it's like, you are West Ham, that's it. Right now, I wish this could be contentious. I wish my dad and granddad supported Arsenal or something like that, because I'd be a lot better off. Maybe not so much Chelsea or Tottenham, be a lot better off. But on West Ham, my granddad took me to my first game. My dad took me to games. And if you break that bond in father, son, grandson, granddad, grandmother, nan, whatever you're calling them, nonna in the Italians' case like us, if you break that bond, you are breaking the long-term future of the club. You're breaking the culture, the history. You're also fundamentally breaking what made English football such a great cultural thing. The music, the football, the fashion, the identity. The fact that we in England know what football is and we applaud the opposition and we create atmosphere through thick and thin, right? I'm not saying that go to Germany, they do the same thing. I go to other countries, they do the same thing. But we were known for that. And it's what's made us attractive. You listen to what Thierry Henry said when he first arrived at Arsenal. He said, I just couldn't believe it. He goes, I played for Arsenal. Win or lose, the fans from both sides are just going crazy. Every single game they turn up. Every single game. On a Wednesday night, we go to play Stoke City, where they batter us, and we've got Arsenal fans there. Every time. He couldn't understand it. Many, many overseas players just did not understand this level. This stuff doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't happen on an iPhone. It happens over years and years of suffering for your team. We are season ticket holders for a reason. We are not interested in one-off appearances at the club, like an American thing. Hey, let's go to the ball game. No.
Yes, let's have an experience, right?
Yeah, but it's also, it's a community. It's the heart of the community. And even though, I don't live anywhere near West Ham anymore. I mean, I was born close by, but I don't live. It's like, it's my community. It's my mates. It's my identity. It's part of what I do. And, I'm a businessman, so I don't need too much identity, but I want West Ham. And I know there's Hartlepool fans, Sunderland fans, Doncaster Rovers fans. For them, it's the biggest thing in their life, apart from their family, because it is their family. And if you let this stuff take over, the one thing I learned from a maths class was compound interest. Shove it up every year by 8, 7, 8, 10%. It's unaffordable in 3 years' time, right? And that's what we're looking at here. And they don't care. They find us to be, they call us legacy fans. Even Alex, who's a young guy, legacy fans, you guys, they just see the opportunity for a globalized game. I'm not saying that's not a bad thing, but for Christ's sake, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And that's what they're trying to do to us. And guess what? We're not having it. It's
Alex,
our club, not theirs.
that's very important. That sensibility there, and partly I want to ask the follow-up question, how many tennis balls you have in your home? Remembering the German protests last year. Alex, you're in the middle of it, though. You're just about to, or already have, passed on the virus to your son.
Yeah.
This is the next generation of fans that will be priced out, is the concern, correct?
That's absolutely right. And, Andy put it, so well as well, that if parents like myself, if you think about alternatives, if you've been priced out, if you realise that you can't take your son or your daughter to football, to your team, you will go looking for alternatives, and that will be lower league. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I'm not diminishing anybody else's team or anything like that. But you will start looking for cheaper alternatives. So near me, I can go and watch a game Saturday afternoon, 3:00. Can't do that normally. Probably have a drink. Can't do that. And I can bring my son along. And that is what you will find. And as Andy said, once that chain is broken, then it's probably broken forever. Because if your child, if they haven't sort of followed your team quite yet, there's a good chance that they will then follow a local team, a lower league team. And then that link is broken forever. And if you repeat that across thousands of fans, across all of the different clubs, then what happens? What happens to that community? And what happens to the people who are still attending West Ham? And who takes our place, if you like? And then what happens to this famous product that the Premier League is so proud of? It just doesn't really bear thinking about. And I think it affects so many people in so many different ways. And it will be a real shame. And we won't see the sort of consequences of this until many years down the line, drip, 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 as you strip away that bond. And that's what we'll find later down the line, which is just terrible to think about, really.
But hope is at hand. Let me tell you why, right? Under the last UK government, this is not political, they were running through what's called the Football Governance Bill. And the idea was to bring a regulator, an independent regulator, into the game. Now, we can be cynical about these things, but one of the things the regulator is focused on is clubs' heritage. And I would argue, and others within the football community who have got better voices and more eloquent than me argue, and more connected than me argue, don't let that just be the football ground. Don't let that just be what was Upton Park for us. That argument's finished. Don't think about that. Don't think about necessarily it's about the badge or the colours, even though all these things are important. Heritage is living in us, in fans, in our sons and our daughters and our granddaughters and our grandsons, and our nephews and our nieces and our mates. So the heritage, when they talk about retaining the heritage, that's living and breathing, that's us. We're going to get into the politicians to say, you fuck this up and you throw away one of the great institutions of this country. And we ain't got much left, right? So hold on to it and build it. I've been watching England since 1982, and I can tell you, we've had the discussion about England football fans. They can be a nightmare down the years. I was in Germany. We've made a breakthrough where there wasn't riots. There wasn't disgraceful behaviour. The England football family, the national football family, is now pretty diverse. And I'm very proud to stand as part of that community, because the FA had to do something to arrest the disease that the England football fans have brought. Now, that shows when there is somebody interested in that culture to change it and to retain it and to make it great, things can happen. So this independent regulator, under a Labour government, under a Prime Minister who is a football fan and a football player and supports Arsenal, do you know what? We've got half a chance here of actually making the clubs realise that heritage and culture is living and breathing on the streets of East London. End of story.
Amen. And the new government has made it clear that that plan, regulator, etc., is going forward from the old government as well.
In the King's speech.
Right.
So
Right.
it's going to happen.
Yeah. Now, I've said before that raising the season ticket prices in and of themselves doesn't actually generate a lot of money in the larger picture of West Ham United. But the concession tickets, I would at least subscribe some bigger strategic motifs to the club. Can we walk through that a little bit? What's the end game here? I mean, if you price out young people as well as retired folks, you must have a plan in your mind as a club about who is supposed to take these seats. What's the plan here?
Right, the plan is quite simple, and you can cut this plan, whichever side of the fence you are. You can always have an argument and defend it. What the clubs will say is, you season ticket holders are blocking seats. You are blocking new fans from coming in, okay, because there's a waiting list for season tickets. Apparently there's a waiting list at West Ham. We can't find out how many. We know for sure that Liverpool, Manchester United, there is a significant waiting list. And season tickets stay within families. That's what Alex and I would be probably arguing for. But you have to remember, it does exclude some new people trying to come in. Before we zoom out for a minute, talk about Forest. So Forest's current issue with their fans is their students, wait for it, their students are being priced out because Forest don't want student pricing. So they've gone after a totally different demographic and they are penalising them. Come back to West Ham. We were told when we left Upton Park, which fans weren't consulted even though the club claims they were, we were told affordable family football. We were told, go and buy a season ticket, bring your kids here, come part of the new revolution, come part of the new West Ham. We were told all this 8 years ago. What's happened? Right, I'll tell you what's happened. They've worked out that in the free market that they can get $200 a seat, right, from somebody, and Alex's kid is actually blocking that $200 sale. And that $200 person will also buy burgers and all sorts of drinks and go in the club shop and spend $500.
We're talking about tourists.
Well, we're talking about, yeah, and I'm a tourist because I went to Germany to watch England. I'm a tourist because I've got mates in Dortmund. I mean, we're all tourists, right? I travel the world watching sport. I don't want this to be anti-tourist. What I am saying is that one of the great things about our football, German football, the wit on the terraces, the chanting, the singing, the atmosphere. If you're not careful, you're going to end up with no singing, just filming, just iPhones up in the air. Inanely, I have people sitting next to me filming 20 minutes of the game. And I think, what are you even looking at, mate? I want to help you understand who this player is. Oh, come on, get involved. And it's like, yeah, just going to film all this and I'll stick it on Instagram, or something like this. I'm not saying we should be anti any of that. We're not. But the point is the clubs see the opportunity to monetize more fans for higher money across what they call all of their verticals. This American vision of dwell time, you've got to dwell in the bloody shop, you've got to dwell in the bar, dwell in the restaurant, bigger hospitality, yada, yada, yada. Remember, right, with West Ham, well, actually your listeners won't know this, West Ham pay £3.5 million a year to rent this stadium. 3.5, right? So when our owner, David Sullivan, talks about we've got to compete with Arsenal, we've got to compete with Chelsea, we've got to compete with Tottenham, he's gaslighting fans. The extra money raised on concessions and raised on the extra price going up pays for Danny Ings for 1 month. A player who can't even get in the team, let alone score a goal, for 1 month. Please, do me a favour. Right? So when we talk about this, Arsenal, right, sold their ground, built a new one. They've got an asset. Spurs knocked their ground down and built a new one. They've got an asset. Chelsea haven't gone anywhere. West Ham, they knocked their ground down, sold their house, bought a rental. Come on. For 3.5 million a season, nothing. Tottenham's debt is serviced at about £45 million a season. No wonder they've got more commercial income because they can monetise their stadium, and rightly so. They've invested £750 million. West Ham have invested nothing. So when we West Ham fans are benefiting from the public purse because this £3.5 million yields a loss of the public organisation that owns West Ham State or the stadium West Ham rent loses 20 million a year. It's madness. So we're getting a double whammy. We, the taxpayers, are being asked to pay for West Ham. We, the taxpayers who choose to support West Ham or maybe get to impose on us, have to pay a higher rate. You can't have it both ways, West Ham. You know, we would support the club, support the team, not the regime. This regime is just out for themselves, and they're not going to be around longer than we are. And we've got no choice. We're West Ham, that's the end of it. I'm not going to go to another club. I mean, when I'm told that I'm a customer, do me a favour. There's no choice. I go, West Ham, well, who's my second team? West Ham reserves. Next question. You know?
Yeah. So, I think it's become pretty clear. It's not about necessarily only I don't want to pay more money. This is also about legacy. This is about the crowd in the stadium. This is about the relationship between clubs and fans, who rightly feel that they have an ownership in the club as well. Alex, how has the campaign taken off, and how successful do you think you've been in communicating these arguments to the West Ham community, and perhaps also whatever you know is going on at other clubs along the same lines?
It's a good question. Oh, I don't know what's happened to my life. The campaign has progressed pretty well, I would say. It's sort of gone through periods of like not stagnation but quiet building, and then something will happen and that will just really sort of push the campaign on. And when I started it, I used the sort of term save our concessions, but immediately I started saying, and this goes back to what you were explaining to US fans about what a concession is. Sometimes I think there's a bit of confusion about what a concession is, and so I started using the terms no kids tickets and no OAP tickets, old age pensioners tickets, because that cuts straight to what somebody would understand, rather than using the term concession, which can lead to confusion. And I started using just my design and communications expertise to try and push things on, launching, designing images and things like that I knew that would spread quite rapidly on social media. And in the back of my mind, when I started, I knew that I would have to use my imagery and films of my son that I had, luckily, from when he was about a year old in West Ham gear. So I knew that there would be a film coming, and that if I got that right, it could really spread and go viral, which I hate the term go viral, but this is the world we live in. So that really helped when I put that film together and launched that. That really worked, and that really sort of pushed up the petition numbers. And joining up with others as well, like Hammers United and a few other sort of campaign groups as well, has really pushed things on.
Yeah, Crossed Hammers have been good as well. You know, those guys have been good. And to be fair, the ISC, which is made up of Hammers United, the West Ham United Supporters Trust, the West Ham United Official Supporters Club, the oldest supporters club, I think, in the Premier League, Pride of Irons, Inclusive Irons, and the Disabled Supporters Association, as well as Claret members. All of those signed up to support the campaign, signed up to peaceful, lawful protest. And at the moment, I don't know if Alex would argue with me, but we haven't protested at all. We boycotted. We put a boycott request out for the pre-season friendly against Celta Vigo, which is in 2 weeks' time, maybe next week actually, and to say to people, don't go to the game, and if you fancy spending the money you would have spent on the game on the Irons for Food Banks, please donate to them. That's a positive thing. And then we are leafleting at that game, all of us, and we'll be leafleting at the Aston Villa game, which is the first Premier League game at home the week after. None of this is demonstrations. They haven't even started yet. So we would say, I think Alex eloquently put it, is that this has been summer, close season. Euros have been on, and we've managed to, we'll go over 15,000 signatories this weekend. And we've got support now. We've had, much as it pains me, the Daily Mail have supported us. Henry Windsor, a fantastic, well-known global sports writer specialist, has done a fantastic piece on us. We've had MP, Member of Parliament support from local MPs, that's going to widen. Famous Ray Winston, West Ham fan, has come out and said it's frankly a load of bollocks and it's nonsense. We've had our legends, David Cross, Frank McAvenny and Tony Cottee from our early 80s and mid-80s teams come out and support us. And we've got other fan groups. I've mentioned, no particular order, Spirit of Shankly and Everton's Fan Advisory Board, Man City's various fan groups, Fulham's Supporters Trust and Wolves Supporters Trust, as well as other Wolves groups. So, and there's loads more. So there's a lot going on, and that's without any of us getting back to the stadium to talk to our mates about it and in the pubs. Because, as Alex said, a lot of people do not realise what is here, and they don't understand the drip nature of 1,000 cuts that kill you. This is what this is about. And this is why if West Ham's owners were going to be there for the next 50 years, I'd have a bit more respect for them, but they won't, right? They'll sell the club as soon as someone offers them close to £1 billion, they'll sell it. So it's not like we're run by, a Japanese organisation that would have a 500-year plan. This is short-termism in its extreme. How can, the chief executive double her wages in 8 years? She's doubled her wages from around 600,000 to 1.2 million in 8 years since we've been at the stadium. How does that work? We haven't had our wages doubled, yet our season ticket prices have gone up and up and up. I'm very sorry, in a world where the many and the few, the workers in this arrangement are the West Ham fans, not the players. Got no problem with the players. They earn what they earn, and that's great. And they're earning more and more and more. But we're the workers. We're the ones who put the atmosphere in the ground. We're the ones who bring new supporters in. We're the ones who build the legacy. We're the ones who live it and breathe it, day in, day out, whether we like it or not. Win or lose, winning is the greatest feeling. If we can play on a Saturday at 3:00, boy, is it great for Sunday and so on. But losing is exactly the opposite. But that's what you sign up to when you go and watch a football game. And not everyone can travel. But, West Ham saying, well, you can get concessions in bands 5 and 6, as Alex said. You send your granny and your granddad up the stairs. Go on, see how far that gets you. They've got to walk up. There's no escalators. There's no lifts. Walk up to the top and watch it with your fading eyesight and your heavy breathing. You watch the club that you loved. I've said to the directors of that club, you've got 62,000 seats here, 62,000 seats that have been gifted to you for £3.5 million a year. If you take the away fans out of it, if you've got 58,000 fans screaming and shouting, loving West Ham every time we play, you haven't got to worry about your drink sales, your burger sales, your hot dog sales, or your merchandise sales, because we'll be loving you. We're giving you money. But what you're doing is you're turning the fans against you, the owners, and against the club. And that is wrong, fundamentally wrong. And that's not your job to do that. You either got to stand aside and get someone in who understands it, or change your policy. So when people say, what do we want? We don't want any change to concessions at all. And we want no more than inflation, CPI, consumer price index linked price rise per season. That's it. Simple, really clean ask, because that's what we used to have. Yep. Right? It's not like we're trying to negotiate halfway. No, you've changed it. We're not having it. What will we do about it if we fail? Well, we're not going to fail because we're not going anywhere. But we haven't even protested yet.
I was going to get to that. Alex, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I think because what Andrew said about not protesting yet.
Yeah.
From my side, from when that campaign started, obviously it was the closed season, and I thought it would be best to try and provide a range of ways that people can, voice their displeasure. And, some people will say, oh, you're not going to do anything unless you do this, unless you have that. But if you offer lots of different ways for people to make their mark, so if they can sign a petition, if they can boycott shirts, boycott merchandise and boycott a game, then all of that increases awareness and builds momentum. And I think that is really, really vital in the lead up to when the pre-season friendly and then the first game, which is televised, 5:30 kickoff. If you have all of that behind you, all of that momentum, and it's all snowballed towards that moment, then it really does help. You can't just say, oh, well, everybody's going to boycott the Villa game. It's just not going to happen. It's not realistic. And we wouldn't ask people to do that as well. I know that there'll be some people out there who, no matter what, no matter how they feel about the club and what they're doing to concessions, etc., they will have to attend every single home game.
100%.
And they will have to buy the club shirt no matter what. And that is the loyalty that is exploited by our owners. And so that is why I always said, if you can't do this, then at least sign a petition, at least email the club, because then, as I said, it builds awareness and it builds momentum as well. So I just wanted to get that across. This is the close season and we've not even begun yet.
Yeah, and without us getting kind of, or getting me sort of linked in with a Baader Meinhof gang or something, because I'm not like that, all right? The thing is, I've got mates with kids. Those kids want the shirts. They want the new stuff. Their mums and dads are going to buy it. Don't tell their mums and dads they're sinning by buying it, right? Because you're cutting across exactly the loyalty and the family values that we're talking about here. As Alex says, give choice, let people make their own minds up, and let them talk sensibly and creatively and professionally and nicely to each other about why this is wrong. No one wants to be told anything. People want to find out and come to their own conclusions, and then want to know what's going to happen about it. And there will become, a murmur to a noise, to a deafening roar. It comes over time. And West Ham fans, like most football fans, West Ham fans are not mugs. They're not going to be taken for a ride here. And, I will say one thing. It's only because of what Alex and his compadres started that West Ham have called a meeting with the fan groups, right? Only because of that. We wrote to them 3 times, the ISC, and they rejected all of our proposals and all of our questioning. We did it all,
right.
Continued to be professional. But only when social media, only when Henry Winter, the Daily Mail, Ray Winston, only when Alex's film starts to get circulated around, only then do they think we better have a chat with these people. Now, we know what they're going to do. They'll fudge it. They'll want us to, play nicely. We'll see what happens. But, it's a fallacy to think that these people are going to play nicely. They're not. Right? But they're going to have to play. They're going to have to play us lot. There's a lot of us, and they're let's see how it goes, shall we?
So we have the petition, around the 15,000 names on it so far. Mine is one of those, for full disclosure. We have the call to boycott the friendly, which is normally well attended. It's the last friendly before Premier League begins, and a call to boycott the club shop as well as you are able. Are you allowed to say what else you're considering right now? What do you think is possible, and what does West Ham culture as well as British protest culture you think allow you to do?
I think I think everything has to be within the law. Everything has to be peaceful. It must not be in any way malicious or bullying, meaning you can't look at your fellow fan and say, you're not standing up, turning your back, whatever it may be. Why not? You don't want any of that, right? It's got to be done by choice. I think we're going to go for the long term. We've looked to our German friends and we've looked to, the likes of Dortmund and, Bremen and those guys and what they've done, where that, the German football game, that the game in Germany is in my view, it's in a much better place than the British game because I just think, I know from my German friends every time sending me notes about what are you guys doing? You're selling another club. What are you doing? So I think we'll look at the creativity that some German fan groups. I'm not saying we'll do tennis balls. I think that's a German thing. We'll leave it with the Germans on that one. But we might have something up our sleeve that might be round and it might be a little bit less bouncy, but a bit more floaty, let's say. And it might be something to do with our club culture. There will be coordinated protests across Premier League club by fan groups, and that will be something generic. But each club has said we'll do our own thing as well because, let 1,000 flowers in the field bloom. Let everyone do their thing. And I think with West Ham, we will get quite creative because we usually are. And we will be absolutely legal, and we don't want to be in any way aggressive. Okay, that's not going to get the vast majority of fans on side. This is a family game nowadays. It needs to be respected in that fashion, and we are fundamentally hugely upset on the basis of the family ties and the values that West Ham United Football Club always had. That is now under real threat. So we have to remember that at all times. So, creative. David Cross, legendary player for us, certainly for my age group, he said West Ham United was always a working class family club. Fans were working class, players knew it, and they respected it. And that working class thing is important to the working class, and we don't want it taken away. And once again, hats off to the Germans because they don't let it go.
Protest culture in English football is very different than in Germany. And that has various roots. I mean, it has to do with how club ownership is structured, I think. For all its shortcomings and inefficiencies, the 50+1 rule of member-controlled clubs plays a role here. But also the politicization of the fan base. And I don't mean party politics. I mean the awareness that you understand your act of going to the game, of belonging to a club as by and large, as a political act, as a statement as well, and as something that operates within realms of power and isn't just a passive observer thing. And we stand to hope something is shifting here gradually in England as well.
I think English football fans are long overdue standing up for their identities and the clubs that they have played a part in shaping, and their families have played a part in shaping. And it's overdue for English football fans to do this. English football fans think they stand up for it, but when it pales into significance when you look at other cultures close to us in Europe, where, as I say, look at what Germans fans do. And it's a great game in Germany. You go there, you stand on the terrace, have a beer, you stand up, have a beer, have a laugh with fans, and the passion's brilliant. Fair play. That's what you want. It's what we used to have. And we sit in a soulless bowl. And the only way that soulless bowl is going to have any soul is if those fans are trusted and celebrated and respected by the owners. Do that atmosphere changes. Carry on the way they're going. You're just driving people away. They're just had enough. And that's wrong. That's theft.
At West Ham in particular, this issue comes on top of the stadium move 8 years ago, and of resistance against the current owners. One of the targets is now the C's David Gold, but David Sullivan is still around. So is Karen Brady in the crosshairs, particularly on this issue. How well organized would you say is the resistance among West Ham fans by now? This is not the first fight. This is not the first protest. There have been marches. There have been other causes. There's been some division in the fan base as well. Do you see this as a uniting issue? Do you see this as a next step for fan activism at the club? How would you place this current conflict within the landscape of West Ham and what West Ham can become?
I would say maybe we wouldn't look at it as a conflict. We'd look at it as a campaign. I think that where West Ham fans in recent years mobilised to actually ensure there was so-called fan engagement was the Burnley game, famously 5-6 years ago. Hamilton United was formed out of that. Our chair and founder is lifetime banned for some reason from West Ham as a result of walking on the field with a corner flag and doing nothing else. But
yes, that's Paul Colborne, and
that's it, Paul Colborne. But aside from that, I think that one of the criticisms I would have, including myself in this, is that West Ham fan groups have not been unified. And I actually put that down to the club stoking division, the usual thing of divide and conquer. And I think that within the fan groups that sit on the Independent Sports Committee, soon to be hopefully the FAB, we've got a lot more unity now because we're a lot more relaxed with each other. We trust each other. And there's been better leadership, right? And it's been a bit more long term. I think if we are united, we've got a chance. If we're divided, we have no chance. We are West Ham United. And, it's been great working with Alex, for example, because he's led the way and he's done it in a in a really consensual, enlightened way. And I think it's taught us everyone a lesson, really, how to do things. And there's more of that to come. And there will always be differences of opinion, and people will think that we're running the team down. We're not. We're not running the team down. We want West Ham. It's the greatest night of my life being in Prague in that ground when we won 2-1 against Fiorentina. The greatest night, since 1980 being Arsenal in the FA Cup final. These are legendary nights. This is what we wait for. So we always support the team. We want that team to do well. We love our footballers. We've got to love our owners. And I'll tell you now, it's possible, because you talk to Brighton fans, you talk to Brentford fans, right? They love their owners. Brighton, They love their owners. They know what they're trying to be at Brighton, okay? They understand what they are. And I think what West Ham are trying to be, or what the owners keep telling us we're trying to be, they sort of need to follow up on that, or stop telling us that's what they're trying to be, and maybe leave it to us to decide. So, it's very possible to have good owners, and there are some great examples of good owners. Tony Bloom at Brighton is exceptional. He's really commercial. His model is to find great players and sell them for a lot of money, usually to Chelsea, and he's done very well. But he's a family, he's a Brighton man through and through, and so is his dad, and so is his granddad. There's a theme here, isn't there? And I'm not aware that Karen Brady, Arsenal, and David Sullivan, Cardiff, have got anything to do with West Ham. Bluntly.
Yeah. Alex, how is the campaign currently structured? Do you meet regularly as a committee? What can you tell us about what goes on behind the scenes, and how decisions are made, and how the next steps are being consulted? How does such a campaign get off the ground and keep running?
The Save Our Concessions bit was started by me, or that sort of little Twitter account, but it's sort of, like I said, funneled into other groups. So I've taken a lot of advice from Paul and from Andy as well. And so the campaigns have sort of merged. Would you say, Andy?
Yeah. What the beauty is, Alex, is that no one's fighting each other for any control. There's so much good stuff going on that it's almost like, blimey, we've got to switch the ideas button off here. There's so much coming through. And what's genuinely been heartening is seeing people like Alex, Chris Wilkins, these guys sort of coming out of nowhere, passionate about West Ham, and just shoulders to the wheel, not talking about it, doing it. We knew nothing about Alex's campaign. I mean, obviously, I followed him on Twitter because you did. I don't know why. I thought you were somebody else, actually. I thought you were a different mate of mine with the same name. But out of nowhere, and then the next minute, Save Our Concessions, fantastic. It's like Tottenham have got their campaign is Save Our Seniors, and and we spoke a lot to Spurs and good people there. I would say probably even more organised than we are at West Ham. But I think in terms of meeting at Hammers United, we are. I said to Paul about 18 months, 2 years ago, I'll give you an hand. I didn't realise that meant chop it off and give it away forever, but that's what's happened. But the great thing about Paul Goldborn is but he's a leader in that he's at the front line. 5:30 in the morning, ping, Paul's up. Christ, here we go. But we got no choice there. If the likes of Alex and ourselves and many, many others don't make a stand, it's over. All that stuff that we've enjoyed, I say enjoyed, look that up in the English dictionary, but we've experienced at West Ham, and, all that stuff goes away, and it's wrong. The West Ham United their owners say they want to be a world-class club in a world-class stadium. How about world-class fans? How about investing in the fan base? How about investing in the community? How about giving something back? Do you know what? It comes back, it will pay back in spades. Because then what you could do is knock that stadium down and make 120,000 if you needed to. Because if you needed more capacity and you invest in your fan base and you became this global product, great. Hello, everything's financeable. But at the moment, it's a lot of talk. And what happens if West Ham, take a turn downwards, let's say? They're going to need the likes of Alex and Alex's boy and Alex's boy's boy and stuff like that. They're going to need them. And you play with that with fire. So many football fans I know from all over the country, having travelled with West Ham and mostly travelling with England, you get to know so many fans. the passion's there. I was at the Berlin final, standing next to Stoke fans. For them, like me, this was serious. This was everything, like England in a final. And there's Stoke City, 2 down, there's Middlesbrough, over there, Hull. All these clubs, and they're all football, they're like us, they're all the same. They wanted it. And it means something, because for a lot of people, football's their life. It's the one thing that gives them joy in a very tough world nowadays to live in. And I think football needs to remember its responsibility to the community, and to support those players, and to the football family is really deep. And look at all the players who get turfed out. The football pyramid is pretty unsavoury, what happens with football players.
Yeah.
We get Declan Rice and all the rest of it. Fantastic, good. I'm pleased with Declan. But how many tens of thousands of kids didn't make it and now got mental health problems all over the place? Maybe going to watch West Ham or going to watch Chelsea is what they need to do. And if you if you make that too expensive, it becomes an elite. It becomes like the opera. No one goes to the opera, I know, because no one can afford it. Well, if anyone could afford it, they might give it a try. And if they give it a try, they might like it, even though it's all in Spanish or Italian or something, or German. But it could be an amazing experience. But if it's too expensive, no one's ever going to go there. The football shouldn't be like that.
I don't know who it was, but somebody did coin the term of football as the working man's opera.
Yeah, I think it was a German philosopher, wasn't it?
Yes, yes.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely. There's a brilliant range of T-shirts called Philosophy Football. Look it up on the internet. It's absolutely brilliant for that stuff. I mean, I wear a lot of them. It's just brilliant about the football, the working class, and the intellectualism that the working class, some of us have. It just makes you cry. It's so funny. It's so good. So true.
You said the question of what happens if we don't succeed, which I was going to ask, is mute because you will succeed. What makes you both so sure?
Well, you can never control things you can't control. We can't get inside. We can get inside of the minds of the decision makers of West Ham, whether they do anything. The success will be, we will be around, either on the inside or the outside, a lot longer than these owners will be. And if I was them, I'd want to harness all of the emotion, the power, the passion, the love that all of us have got for West Ham inside that stadium every week, home and away. Next thing they want to get rid of is away season ticket holders. Why? Well, because, they're a bit of a nuisance, aren't they? These people who go everywhere supporting the club, know everything. Bit of a nuisance, which, if we're away at Man City, they might want to sell the ticket to somebody who might decide to fly in from somewhere else to watch Man City in as a West Ham ticket, because you get more money for it. I mean, so yeah, we'll be around. We're not going anywhere. What we might not do is go in the ground, but we might be somewhere else, close by, supporting our club, and we will never, ever give up, because this is our land. This is it. This is our home. It's not Ukrainian. We're not Ukrainians fighting for our lives. Okay, let's just be clear about it. But it's the same direction of travel. This is our land. This is our home. This is our family. We ain't giving it up.
Alex, what would you consider success to the campaign? And if we were to talk, and I don't know, how old is your son now?
8.
All right.
8.
If we were to talk again and he's a teenager, what would success look like then?
It's a very good question. Definite a reversal of the sort of concessions policy, so a complete restoration of all concession prices, and ensuring that any sort of increase on season tickets as a whole is measured and suitable, and to the current rate of inflation. But going beyond that, as to what Andy said, that a sort of harnessing and a better relationship with the fans, and realising what they can actually bring, and not taking us for granted. the English fans in particular have put up with a lot since the formation of the Premier League, and I find it, quite patronising when Chelsea fans who have travelled to Newcastle on a Monday night are praised for what they've done, for taking a day off or taking 2 days off work and being up there in their thousands. And really, that doesn't need to happen. And I think there needs to be the balance needs to be. The focus needs to be more on fans. There needs to be a better relationship between the fans and the clubs in the Premier League as well. And so I think that is what I would like to happen specifically at West Ham, but then beyond that as well into the Premier League. And the fans, West Ham fans in particular, that they should enjoy within reason, if they can, going to West Ham again and not feeling like they're being patronised or exploited to such a terrible degree. And I think that would be success as well. And that was protected as well. And that culture was protected in law by some. But if the regulator if they've got the teeth, the regulator, if they can do that, then that would be successful to me. I'm sure there are other things that Andy would say, but I would like my son to carry on going to West Ham. He doesn't want to support anybody else. He's not a floating supporter. He's not looked to Man City or anybody like that. He's come with me to a dozen games. He wants to keep going. He wants a season ticket. And so it's imperative that his journey is allowed to continue and that he joins up with friends and they become, young men together and go to West Ham together. And then eventually they bring their kids. And that would be success, that journey is encouraged and cherished rather than sort of being so restricted or exploited. And that would be success.
And that's not just your son's individual journey. This is precisely how culture gets created, passed on, changes for good or for worse, but is alive.
Yeah.
And that's the long-term picture here.
I think also I would say just on a practical level, beg the club. Talk to us about what you're trying to achieve revenue-wise from the tickets. Talk to us about what we can do to help. Look, maybe you start to phase in immediately a loyalty program. If you've had your season ticket 5 years, you get X percent every year. Like you do when you work in a company and you get a bit more holiday every year, the longer you work there. If you want to encourage loyalty rather than penalise it, do it. Put a system in that people can understand and they buy into, right? Do that. If you want your season tickets to be resold because the likes of Alex and I couldn't make it for whatever reason, then don't tell people that they only get a credit in a thing called club cash, which you can only use in the bloody shop. Give them their money back. Give them their money back. They put the money in the first place. Let them have it. Some will want it via club cash. Some will want to use merch, but not everybody. Make it easy for fans to put their tickets back in, for the club to, let's face it, sell at a profit, right? We don't mind them taking 5% arrangement fee. We don't mind that, right? I'm sorting for people, maybe they do mind that, but we understand that. But they make it difficult for us, and then they moan. When it's not West Ham's problem that the fixture dates and the times keep getting moved about, but have some respect for the fans because we don't. Let's say we pay in advance. We don't know what we're going to get when we're going to get it, right? And there's very few businesses that would be able to get away with that. We're fans. We're not customers. We don't have a huge amount of choice in this. Make it easier for us. Keep us on side. Reap the benefits of an amazing fan base. That's the key. That's the upside.
And for all that's wrong at West Ham, and this is not an easy club to follow at all times, I am proud and happy that this is going on at West Ham United right now. This campaign is the level of articulation that I'm hearing from you, what I'm seeing on social media. Those are all signs of life. And not only signs of strife. It's a scene like that. I'm very encouraged by what I'm seeing here, and I hope you heard some of that back from supporters as well, who you reached, who perhaps 2-3 years ago would have said, "Let the owners do what they want to do, don't create division," and who might now see some of the wisdom of what you're shooting for, both at Hammers United and at Alex's campaign.
Exactly that. And I would say that we have to be as professional, as courteous, as likable as we possibly can. And all I would say on social media is supporters, and agitators against us, try and keep it decent. Try and keep it like you would be talking to your nan or your young daughter or your young son. Just keep it. Let's keep it as decent as we can. It's very emotional, and I know it's hard sometimes. But we should be professional, because if we're not, then the club will have no intention of treating us in any other way other than just complete contempt, and that's not going to get us anywhere.
Anything that listeners, especially those outside of the UK, can do to stay in the loop, or even support what you are doing or what might be going on at their club that they follow?
I mean, they can sign the petition, which is at change.org. It's got a whacking great. Just put in change.
I'll put the link in the show notes, Andy.
Brilliant. Yeah. They can do that. They can join any of the fan groups. They can sign up for Save Our Concessions on Twitter. They can sign up to Hammers United on Twitter, follow us. They can join Hammers United if they want to, by all means, on our website, hammersunited.org. Just follow us. And actually, the biggest strength, as far as I'm concerned, the difference between this and every other campaign is all the other club fans realising. Newcastle last week, their supporters trust came out and said, listen, look at West Ham, look at Wolves. It's going to happen to us one day. Mm-hmm. Newcastle have gone through an awful lot of problems with their owners, previous owner. So they know what it's like. And it was just heartening to see Newcastle coming alongside. This has got the potential to really build. I said it on one of the little films. I was fortunate enough to be in the 80s when the rave scene started, and I was quite heavily involved in it. But what it did was it wiped out football hooliganism in England overnight. It really did. This has got the ability to build cross-club bonds like never before. We're all interested in the same thing. Of course, on the field we want to win, but we're all human beings and we've got a passion for our game. And there's so many touch points. I look forward next season to travelling away and seeing fans that I've been working with face to face for a beer and having a laugh. And not having to think, oh Christ, we're having a punch up. No, please, we not do that. So I think there's a real opportunity, and that's long term, Philip. That's long term, Alex. Is that get the culture of football to be really open, really supportive, because we, the fans, we're the workers.
I think that's a wonderful, wonderful conclusion and wonderful vision. Alex, anything you'd like to add on to that in terms of specifics?
No, I don't think I could add anything. Andy put it very, very eloquently and very passionately. I think, just sign the petition, follow all the accounts you can. Actually, the one sort of thing I would mention is that I've put together an email that details all of the articles, interviews, podcasts, and things like that. And that is going to be set as my out of office at the Save Our Concessions email address. So anybody who pings an email, sends me an email, will then get that back in return. And the first recipient of that email is going to be West Ham United. So but if anybody else wants it, I can certainly pass that on.
Very good. Very good. West Ham plays Aston Villa at home, August 17th. Some quite outrageous pricing going on for single game tickets on that one as well. That's one to watch. What is that?
And Manchester City, the following home game. Just point of detail there was that after all this furore about concessions and season ticket prices, what are the club going to do? They're going to announce Aston Villa prices highest ever, and then about 2-3 days later, we'll throw Man City on the fire as well. And you sort of think to yourself, is anybody in this West Ham organisation thinking about it, or is it deliberate? Are they deliberately trying to wind the fans up? Because what it's done is it energised Aston Villa fans to support West Ham fans and they're starting to look now. And Man City fans going, what's going on here? And this is like, honestly, I don't know what playbook West Ham are using, but it's almost absurdist what they're up to.
It certainly won't be the last either, because Liverpool will be classed as a triple A category game, as they did last season. And that is the game that I think that's the example that everybody should be looking at, because that is where you get the highest proportion of away fans in the home end who have probably paid over the odds. And that is exactly what West Ham are trying to do. would take away the season ticket holders and you put anybody else in there as long as they've paid a higher price. And
yeah, you're right, Alex. And just to be clear about that, when we say away fans, that'll be Liverpool fans who probably don't come from Liverpool, because the actual Scousers who are Liverpool will fill up the away end easy. But yeah, I mean, I think with the Liverpool game, we're in discussions with Liverpool fan groups on that. We're expecting to have something interesting happening at that stage for sure.
Good. Yes, West Ham games are ones to watch, not just on the pitch, but also in the stands. What will be going on this season.
Lots of handshaking going and lots of hugging between fans. You watch
which is a good thing. Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We've got to change the game. We're going to.
And I'm grateful that West Ham and fan groups are at the forefront right now.
We've been slow to the party, Philip. We've been slow to the party. Mm-hmm. West Ham not used to being slow to the party back in our day, and we've been very slow to the party, but now catching up very quickly. It was great at the Football Supporters Association AGM a couple of weeks ago at Wembley. It was great to be greeted by fellow fans saying it's good to have West Ham back. I like that a lot.
Yes. Did you both go? I saw you were there. Paul Colburn was there. Alex, were you there as well?
No, not me.
All right.
It was good. It was good. It was really good. It was well attended.
Representation, yeah.
Yeah, there's a building something's building. You can feel it. When you got York City and you got Hull City fans coming up to us going, "Well done." These are lower league clubs, no less passion, and they're saying, we've got challenges as well, because football at the Premier League level has got absolutely no revenue problems. It's got enormous spending problems. To go right back to the beginning, these concessions don't even pay, a tenth of an agent's price on the latest transfer via, the club's sort of pet agent, whoever it may be this week. So please don't gaslight us, West Ham, and tell us that unless we pay more as fans, we can't compete. Please don't say that to us. Because, we're not all idiots. In fact, most of us are not, and we'll go and find out about it. We'll find out the numbers. And the Price of Football is a fantastic podcast that a guy called Kieran Maguire runs, and he's just not world authority.
The economy of football, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really good, all about the business, and it's just fantastic. And you get such a good perspective. So, all of that stuff. I mean, I think the clubs think we're idiots. Dear, oh dear, that's your first mistake, thinking we're idiots. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Anyway, look, the Olympics is
very
on,
good,
and we've won some gold medals, so we're getting behind that.
One bronze medal for Austria so far. It's glorious.
Well, listen, I'll tell you what, Austria in the European Championships should have done better. They looked to me one of the most exciting teams.
Yeah, no, I think so too. It was unusual to have an Austrian national team that actually excites people. And probably should have gone a little further than it did. Yeah. At the same time, I really prioritize club football. The national team isn't as big in Austria as the English national team is for you all in England. And I'm just glad the season is getting going as well, especially if there are fans in the stand that take ownership of their club and their role in the game, such as you two are doing.
We'll give it a go. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for all you do.
A lot of youngsters coming through. I'm looking forward to Alex's boy leading the under-9s West Ham fan group very quick. I'm looking forward to that. That'll be brilliant. He'll do a brilliant job just like that.
Wonderful. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Andy.
Good to see you again, Philip.
Good to hear from you. And I'll provide listeners with updates as well, depending on what's going on here as the season gets underway.
Should be plenty to provide.
Yes.
Thank you so much, both of you. Thank you.
Yeah, good to see you, Alex. Have a great weekend.
Cheers,
yeah,
thank you both.
Thank you both.
Yeah.
I'm forever blowing bubbles. It's from Alex's video again. 2 weeks from now, we're traveling well beyond the big European leagues to the thrill and the exoticism and the fun stories that are the early qualifying rounds for the European club competitions, which are starting later in August as well. I hope you're with me again then. The easiest way to do that is to subscribe and follow. And I look forward to you joining again in 2 weeks. Be well.